with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Biden and McCarthy, Jeffries and McConnell, they start their maybe debt limit talks, maybe sort of not debt limit talks, while we are potentially weeks away from a debt limit breach. Meanwhile, Allen, Texas mourns as conservatives attempts to disown the right-wing killer. Senate Judiciary Committee demands an accounting from Harlan Crow of all the gifts he's given to the different Supreme Court justices over the years. Joe Biden calls for a fair deal for writers on strike day 8. Meanwhile, airline pilots getting ready to take off on their strike. Well, it works. Texas advancing a bill to raise the age of assault weapon purchases. Big movement there, folks. North Dakota, and that was facetious. North Dakota governor signs a bill attacking transgender kids. Trump's rape trial heads to the jury. Imran Khan, former Pakistani PM, is arrested. The loudest anti-trans Republican in the Texas State House resigns over his sexual assault of under 21-year-old female staffers. Israel strikes Gaza, kills 13, including children. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. It is, as my co-host Emma Vigeland says,
Newsday Tuesday.
Newsday Tuesday. Or what was it? What did Shabibo call you? Shabibo? What is it?
Vigilant.
Vigilant.
He put a little D in there. Like yeah. No, he went vigilant.
Vigilant.
Right? Yeah.
Vigilante.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's me, baby.
Nominative determinism.
Except
you're speaking the opposite.
In the Batman way, though.
Newsday Tuesday, folks. This breaking news. I will be on the podcast Movie Night Extravaganza tonight, live at 8 p.m., discussing the film 3 Days of the Condor. I don't think we watch it.
Huh.
I think we just talk about it.
That sounds
I think
fun.
YouTube's terms of service would have a problem with that.
Oh, all right. Fine.
So, yeah,
Look at this graphic.
Wow.
Look at this graphic. I'm going to print that out. Look at that.
That's very cool.
It's a super cool graphic. I rewatched the movie in anticipation of this. It could be one of the perfect movies.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
it's just, it's very accessible, but it's also very interesting. It has like some interior stuff. It has some exterior stuff. It's got a little bit of action. Smart, interesting, great actors.
Did you get to pick the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
So that was your choice. I should see it then.
It wasn't a
I've never seen it.
coincidence.
All right. I don't know.
I mean, because they could have picked a movie that I had nothing to say about.
Yeah. You don't want to talk about Transformers?
No,
Marvel
I never
Universe,
saw that.
Avengers
So
Endgame.
you're not missing anything.
Nope.
Except for Megan Fox, obviously.
Let's get into this. I never got the sound sheet. Oh, here it is. Oh, sorry. I got it right in front of me. Let's get into this. The debt ceiling we go through this every time. And, as folks know, I listen to radio in the morning to see what the AP, how they're reporting things at the bottom and top of the hour. And they're talking about a debt crisis as if it isn't completely manufactured. The crisis is the Republicans don't want to do what they're supposed to do. Period. End of story. And then I guess the subsidiary crises are that the Democrats, when they had an opportunity maybe to get rid of the debt ceiling, couldn't do it because of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. And then the next level of crises are that Janet Yellen, and she very well may be inclined to do this, she certainly can, is just cite the 14th Amendment. I think it's the 14th Amendment that basically says that, the good faith and credit of the United States will not be questioned. Okay, end of story. We're going to pay off our debt. We're going to fulfill our obligations by expanding our ability to essentially print money in support of the debt ceiling. There's other ways you can do it. Platinum coin is a super easy one. We'll talk about why you should do. Personally, I think they should just do the 14th Amendment, blow through it, and let it stand.
Get rid of this arbitrary barrier and leverage point for Republicans. It's the same reason we should get rid of the filibuster. It's why do we have... Well, we know why.
It's something lasting you can accomplish without, having to lean on majorities or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the filibuster is far more important reform, make no doubt. I mean, this is just stop this like annual charade. And here's the thing. I don't think the American public gives one ass wit, whatever I don't even know the saying. I don't think they care one bit. Here is Margaret Brennan talking to Kristen Sinema. This is, honestly, we're just presenting this as the most irrelevant and uninteresting conversation that could exist. Like, no one cares except on Wall Street. And frankly, it is amazing. If you want to know who the top echelons of our government, like where their dramas come from, this gives you everything you need to know.
And notice this is on site at the McCain Institute.
I was about to say, that's a little on the nose. I mean, she might have said this also at the Chamber of Commerce, right? Like that might have been a little bit less subtle, but yeah.
You've been listening. What does a deal look like?
I've been disappointed with the conversations up to date. Both parties are talking without listening to each other. They're just talking right past each other, right? So President Biden says, I want a clean debt limit to meet the full faith and responsibility of the United States of America. To be clear, he's correct. We must meet the full faith and credit responsibility for the United States of America. That is our duty. However, it's not correct to assume or to pretend that either party is used to or always is willing to pass a debt limit without conditions. Both parties have played this game for years. And so...
Pause it. If someone wants to send me an example, like I know there have been Democrats that have voted, individual Democrats that have voted against this.
Right.
But has there ever been a time where the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate have been united and we're not going to pass the debt ceiling unless X, Y, or Z happens? I mean,
you mean the Democratic leadership?
The Democratic one?
No, I mean 2011, 2013, that was all Republicans.
I'm saying ever. Like, I know there have been individual Democrats, but she's just blanket lying here. And is somebody, can you find an example of that? Can you look for an example for that?
I mean, we're looking, but it's not.
I don't think it exists. And, Margaret Brennan knew she was asking this question.
Yeah.
But go continue.
Is used to or always is willing to pass a debt limit without conditions. Both parties have played this game for years. And so we're in a situation where one party is saying they will not negotiate at all with the other party. I think that's a very dangerous place to be. Because one, it's not realistic. And two, it's just not going to happen. So Kevin McCarthy, as we all saw, took him a long time to become speaker. Barely squeaked by with the votes. had to make a lot of concessions to get the job. And he has a very, very, very narrow road to walk. So he has to thread a needle where he can get the votes he needs to pass a debt limit increase and continue to be Speaker. Now, there have been sounds coming out from the Republican conference in the House for months. Patrick McHenry, who's the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, Patrick has been talking for months about what a deal could look like. People have not been listening. They should be. I think folks should actually say, let's hear these options. The reality is the bill that Kevin and his colleagues passed through the House is not going to be the solution.
Right.
The votes do not exist in the United States Senate to pass that. But what the president is offering is not a realistic solution either. There's not going to be just a simple clean debt limit. The votes don't exist for that. So the sooner these two guys get in the room and listen to what the other one needs, the more likely they are to solve this challenge and protect the full faith and credit of the United States of America. We're in really shaky ground right now.
And now we...
You know what's amazing about this is that had anybody, I mean, first of all, she said nothing. Let's just be clear on this.
Like patronized like we're third graders.
Yes. But the amazing thing about this is if she wasn't at the McCain Center and she wasn't sort of positioned as like, some type of bipartisan, like in allowing the media to be completely, sort of like self-satisfied that we've delivered both sides. Somebody would say like, wait, why is this about what Joe Biden needs and what Kevin McCarthy needs politically? Why isn't it about just the full faith and credit of the United States and not holding the world's economy hostage? Like who's the constituency for that? That's what Biden needs? No, in fact, that's also what Kevin McCarthy needs. And when this really comes down to it, that's going to be clear when Wall Street starts to tank. Remember, where was the place that he went when he announced that they were gonna pass something so that they could get into negotiations with Biden about this? He went to Wall Street and announced it on the floor of the stock exchange.
That's the constituency. It's the same constituency that she's speaking to right there.
Exactly.
They're the ones that...
Let them deal with it.
Yes.
That's what I say. Joe Biden shouldn't move an inch. Let Wall Street deal with this. It's their issue.
Yeah, and let them grapple with the tanking of the U.S. economy over clawing back tax breaks for clean energy, more SNAP work requirements, and less IRS enforcement. Like, this is because Trump thankfully came out and was like, no Social Security and Medicare, keep it off the table. They've got nothing. It looks even more childish, the hostage situation that they're setting up here. And she completely flattens the power dynamic here. It's not a negotiation between two equal parties. It's like saying someone took a hostage and is like, well, they've just really got to come together and find a middle ground. If only you, just chop off one hand from the hostage and then we'll pay the ransom. That will be fine. Just don't kill him, okay? That's what we're talking about here.
I think Biden should say, have a seat and I'll be with you in about, a week and a half.
Yeah. Treat him like, they're in the waiting room at a doctor's office.
Anything you want. You want some tea? Can I get you, have some tea or some coffee, some cookies? Enjoy yourself here. And then when you're done, one of the things, Emma mentioned, essentially they were talking about just cuts to everything. They were talking about a freeze on the entire discretionary part of the budget, not obviously the military, right? Did they get to the military? Well, how much of the woke military did they cut out in their budget? It's just a freeze on discretionary spending for like 10 years. Just the size of the country is going to be, 5-10% larger in 10 years. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
Isn't that what they got in 2011? It was a 5-year discretionary spending freeze.
There was a whole sequester that happened on both sides, and it was highly problematic. But here is Jody Arrington, Republican from Texas, on with Fox's Shannon Bream, calling for work requirements. This is I don't know how to put this. Just one of the stupid. Put aside the most heartless and regressive, but it's also stupid if you really want to save money in some fashion.
And we don't want to trap people in dependency on the government. Able-bodied adults receiving public assistance should be looking for a job or working. That's a fundamental responsibility and expectation, certainly, of the American people.
Well, and just to clarify, so in saying you want to go back to fiscal caps from 22, as the Washington Post points out, that would mean cutting back from where we were in 23. That's where Democrats get the line that there are cuts.
There is so much wasteful Washington spending and bloat coming out of COVID.
Cuts, to be fair.
We're going to reduce spending. The president, in his budget, wants to increase spending by $100 billion in discretionary, and more than that, trillions of dollars in non-discretionary mandatory spending. I mean, it's the spending from this administration, the trillions of dollars, that has ignited the inflationary firestorm that Americans are suffering from. Of course, we need to right size and return to reasonable levels of spending.
Okay. First off, mandatory, non-discretionary spending, the president is not raising that. And here's the clue that you can tell, because it's mandatory. It is money that is untouchable, Social Security and Medicare, for reasons so that it doesn't get politicized like this, because it's the best programs the government has, and the American people love it, period, end of story on that. I don't know why the guy won't say the word cuts to this, but the idea of work requirements, first off, SNAP already has work requirements. It already basically says you got to try and go get a job. There's a certain amount of hours that you got to spend a month looking for a job. I had it right here.
Yeah.
But people, what are SNAP work requirements? You Google it and you look it up. It exists already. This is just a game they play. But to the extent that they add work requirements to anything else, play this clip from Arkansas. This is when Arkansas added work requirements to Medicaid. Here's the thing. If you are eligible for Medicaid, chances are either one of two things. One, you're working a job and it doesn't pay enough for you. You still essentially living within a certain measure of poverty, depending on which state you're in, 100% or 133% of poverty, or you can't find a job. I have no doubt in my mind that there are people out there who, for whatever reason, are like, I'm not going to work. I don't want to work. But I need health insurance. I'm going to be on Medicaid.
Over 80% of SNAP households with a non-disabled adult have people who are working in the 25-month period when they're receiving these.
Of course,
because we have a working poor in this country, and these programs are subsidizing low wages by these mega corporations.
Right, but the bottom line is like there is no doubt there are people who are saying, I don't want to work, but I do want health insurance, and just for a moment, let's just say that that is problematic for the sake of argument, okay? Because I'm not so really terribly concerned about those few people who are doing that. But let's just assume that there are those people. They are so few and far between. There are far more white-collar criminals. There are far more people who are scamming everything in corporate America or other government services. There are people who are double-dipping on their mortgage interest deduction. There are people out there who are gaming the system and avoiding taxes by, wealthy people taking out loans against their life insurance policies so that essentially their income is tax-free and just waiting as their insurance policies accumulate, and they die with debt, and then their life insurance pays off their debt, and it's just a way of escaping taxes. If you're really concerned about that, that's a much bigger problem. But the point is, this is about demonizing people who are living in low income. And here it is an example of how ineffective it is. Arkansas Department of Human Services implemented a work requirement for Medicaid. Here is Arkansas Channel 7 reporting on that.
A new study from Harvard University is highly critical of Arkansas's Medicaid work requirement. It claims the requirement left Arkansans with more debt and less affordable health care while having virtually no effect on the state's workforce. KETV senior political reporter.
Pause. I mean, we can listen a little more to that, but those are that's the trifecta.
Yeah, thank you for the headline.
Yeah, like, I mean, cynically, it's like, well, maybe it was worked exactly as designed.
But the amazing thing, too, is it costs the state more money.
Yeah.
Because you've got to implement the whole bureaucracy to enforce this work requirement. It doesn't create new jobs. It ends up leaving individuals with debt and without health care.
That's good for them, yeah.
I mean, it's like a lose strategy.
And what was the state that just had to pay tons of money to take people off of SNAP rolls? It's a slightly different story, but this has happened in another Republican-led state. It might have been Missouri.
This is not even about saving money. This is about punishing people and creating, even more so, it's also sort of like creating and feeding into this idea that if you are poor, or living in poverty, or living close to poverty, you are morally degenerate. Yep. That's what this is. This is just really like, let's demonize people living in poverty or low-income people narrative. That's what it is. That's the project. It started at the beginning for this.
A new study from Harvard University is highly critical of Arkansas's Medicaid work requirement. It claims the requirement left Arkansans with more debt and less affordable health care while having virtually no effect on the state's workforce. KETV senior political reporter Maureen Glisovic brings us reaction to this from the governor and lawmakers.
Implementing Arkansas's Medicaid requirement cost the state and federal government more than $26 million. That's according to the latest Harvard study published this week. It also states that it left more medical debt and less affordable health care.
The study reinforces what those of us who opposed work requirements knew from the beginning, that these types of mechanisms are flawed and they don't work.
It was in March of 2018 when the governor announced a federal waiver paving the way for the work rule, requiring able-bodied Arkansans to work, train, or volunteer for 20 hours a week in order to keep their Medicaid coverage.
Pause it for 1 second. We should also remind you that Asa Hutchinson, he's the reasonable Republican running. He's the reasonable Republican. Honestly, oxymoronic. Continue.
Not only did we put in place a policy that doesn't really do what it's intended to do, but we executed it so poorly. I think the study showed that more than 70% of Arkansans who were subject to this requirement didn't even really understand the program or know when it was in effect. And that's just inexcusable.
Senator Missy Irvin disagrees. She says while her biggest takeaway was the lack of communication between agencies
There's
and
nothing
those
written on
needing
that
to meet a
paper,
work
I assure you.
requirement.
There was zero connectivity between a Medicaid recipient and those with the Division of Workforce Services. You had all those different programs available, but there was no communicating between the agencies. And so that's my biggest takeaway is how do you break down those silos and how do we work together within our agencies to serve that person in like a Life 360.
She adds part of how the study was conducted does not paint an accurate picture.
This was done by a survey, and admittedly in the survey they said that they only had a 15% response rate. So it's not a survey or it's not a study that's based on actual administrative enrollment data, and it's not based on claims data either.
Maureen Glisovic, Channel 7 News.
Yeah, where was the governor's reaction? We couldn't get her to comment on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, this is this dynamic of work requirements for all sorts of government support has failed in a almost identical way. All it is designed to kick people off the rolls, or, to be fair, to just create a narrative that that low-income people, that people living in low income are morally degenerate.
The example I was thinking of was Iowa. Thank you, Bradley, for sending that to me. Iowa Republicans spent $18 million just essentially to kick people off of social programs and SNAP. So, I mean, like, this is happening throughout this a variety of Republican-led states. The cruelty is the point.
Yep.
The desperation is the point. Gives employers, bosses more leverage over people. That's what they want.
Got a couple of sponsors today for the program. One is they were fans of the show. Oh, of course. Now I find the work requirements from SNAP. I have them right here. But that's not who's sponsoring today. They're fans of the show, and they started a worker-owned collective, leftist. IAC Laser Engraving. It was started by a longtime listener, Ryan Lubin, in September of 2021. His company, democratically structured, ensure any hierarchies are justified and efficient. They use sustainably sourced materials coupled with extremely energy-efficient laser technology to bring you unique products you will not find anywhere else. These things are crazy. Incidentally, not only your purchase of these products gets you a one-of-a-kind gift, but again, it goes directly to supporting a business model that is structured around compassionate and worker-centered care, as opposed to predatory, authoritarian capitalism. All right, here's examples. In the past, we've had the Sasquatch. We had the owl. That is amazing. Saul has the astronaut now hanging in his room. He loves it. This one may end up there at one point. It's a sloth. Again, they have so many different.
Whoa, I haven't seen that one yet.
How do I do that? Okay,
that might be
it's
my
a sloth.
favorite.
It is 5 hand-painted, hand-glued layers, and it comes with its own eucalyptus stand, so it can stand up, or you can hang it up on the wall. And then they have these puzzles that come in a box like this, and all sorts of different pieces. This one has 149 pieces. Comes in a puzzle in a box like this. Beautiful. This one, I guess, is 151 pieces. But it is a great case. And then, the puzzle is amazing. Oh, I just lost a piece, too. Shoot. But here it is.
Whoa.
I mean, look at that piece. This one is a koala.
Wow.
Each puzzle is made with sustainably sourced eucalyptus. The image for this puzzle was provided by Gavin Gerundo. He's a popular Asheville, North Carolina artist. Comes in that handcrafted eucalyptus box. They use a high-definition UV printer to render each image on wood, and you can get custom ones as well. They have 30 different puzzle images to choose from. Local Ohio leftist artists, a variety of different, paintings and images. The puzzle sizes range from basically 100 to 500 pieces. They come in a felt-lined box. Also, they can turn any image, your cat, your dog, your family, your kid, whoever, into a high-definition wooden puzzle. Look into their custom puzzles at iaclasers.com. Allow 4 to 6 days for a custom puzzle processing. Use coupon code MAJORITY10 to receive 10% off your purchase today. Enter coupon code MAJORITY10 at purchase. Receive a 10% discount on their amazing products at iaclasers.com. We'll put that in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also, it's been a while, but your favorite sponsor. Yeah. Folks, it's the one spring cleaning job you don't need a glove for. Hello, Tushy Bidet cleans your dirty work the easy way. All you do, and this is amazing. If you've ever had the experience of bidet, you know you don't go back.
You don't go bedak.
You don't go bedak. You sit,
yeah.
you do your business, you turn the knob, and it cleans you with water, which is, of course, the most efficient way to clean. When you get your hands dirty, you don't take a dry piece of paper and wipe your hands off. No, you use water. Cleans your bum 2 times better than wiping. I don't know how they measure that. But it's far more hygienic, too, because you're much cleaner when you go down there to pat yourself dry. It attaches to your existing toilet. It requires no electricity or additional plumbing. Cuts toilet paper use by 80%. God forbid we ever go through another COVID situation, you're set. You don't have to worry about that. But the Hello Tushy bidet pays for itself in a couple of months with savings on toilet paper. But honestly, it is like you feel like you're moving into a different century. And it's not.
It's like time travel.
It's new technology here, but it's not new technology. I mean, it's just it makes total sense. Believe me. Every Hello Tushy bidet attachment comes with a 60-day risk-free guarantee, a 12-month warranty. With over 100,000 five-star reviews, you can see why millions of people already love Hello Tushy and be a part of taking care of business the cleaner way. Again, super easy to attach to your toilet. If you can change your toilet seat, you can do this. Go to hellotushy.com/majority. Use the promo code majority. Get 10% off plus free shipping on your first bidet order. That's hellotushy.com/majority for 10% off. Again, we'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. I just want to mention this in the wake of the shooting in Texas. Just like, and we've seen you've seen the posts or the background on this shooter. Shooter obviously dead, but they are finding that, in part, obvious as a function of his tattoos. I mean, I guess there are people who put swastikas and other Nazi paraphernalia on tattooed on themselves, and right-wing death squad.
Like Harlan Crow, it's just there to remind him of the horrors of the
right, exactly,
of the Nazis.
And this in the wake of that shooting, and incidentally, we should also say the right-wing commentators are working overtime to sort of distance themselves from the fact that this guy was a big fan, supposedly, of libs of TikTok and Tim Pool and whatnot.
Nick Fuentes, Daily Stormer.
I mean, none of this should be terribly surprising.
Really enjoyed Tim Pool's conversation with Elijah Schaefer, the guy who was too racist for the Blaze.
Right, and look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk about the idea of stochastic terrorism. I will say this. The United States, under the Obama administration, assassinated the so-called radical cleric, Anwar al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen. Assassinated him because he would go on and preach a ideology that encouraged people to go out and attack Americans. I think it was. I don't know what their official reasoning was, but it was an extrajudicial killing on the part of the United States. So at the very least, and I happen to think that that should be illegal in this country, but the United States government certainly believes that there can be a direct link between that type of agitation and harm on national security. And I don't know how many times there has to be these type of connections. This is not a random situation. This is not a one-off. Let's put it that way. And so, I don't know how the people who pump this stuff out. Ben Shapiro was cited by another guy, a killer years ago.
In Quebec.
Bissonnette.
And I don't know how they live with themselves, frankly. I mean, no doubt there's, this happens across the political spectrum, but the distribution of that, there's just every study that on any type of like political violence in this country shows that right-wingers have engaged in the vast majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that it's political. And when they cite more or less the same crew of people and the same hatreds for marginalized people. And should we make what they're saying illegal, like they do in a country, let's say like Germany, for instance? A lot of these people, if they were, on YouTube in Germany, I don't know, a certain percentage of them would end up in jail, I have a feeling. Certainly would be shut down. No, we have a different system in this country. We have a First Amendment. People are allowed to, at least to say it publicly. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be carried by the platform that's distributing it.
And a lot of them aren't. I mean, like the Daily Stormer or Fuentes are not on like these major platforms. We don't hear, it's all about where you draw the line. All these free speech warriors on the right are upset because their video, say recreating the death of George Floyd is demonetized. But there's always lines that are drawn. It's just like there are people that go right up to the edge so they can be on these major platforms and still say very similar kinds of things.
Right. And, Elon Musk is, opening up its, fascist Twitter and, what is it? Blue Sky can't get here fast enough as far as I'm concerned. But the really amazing thing is understand that when people are watching this stuff, they're supporting it. They're supporting a platform that is platforming stuff like this. You watch Tim Pool, who's featuring, these racists and bigots on there, more or less, giving them a free ride. Understand that he's supporting them and you're supporting him. That's basically what it comes down to. Libs of TikTok, same thing. All of it. Tucker Carlson, all of it. Same thing. Texas, because apparently they're, starting to notice that gun violence has, quadrupled there, or doubled at least in 10 years, more deaths by gun. And in the wake of 8 people dead, including some of whom are children, one kid, a 6-year-old kid, lost his 3-year-old brother, his mother, and his father. I mean, and that comes just a week after some guy took his AR-15 style rifle, whatever it was, semi-automatic, and shot 5 people because he didn't want to have to quiet down or whatever it was, or stop doing his target practice. The year after Uvalde, when 19 people, mostly kids, killed, they have taken the huge step of raising the minimum age to purchase AR-15 rifles to 21. We'll see if it passes. From 18 to 21.
Big whoop.
I mean, couldn't be more symbolic and less relevant at the end
these
of the day.
kinds of reforms I almost wish just wouldn't happen, because it's like
they're just letting the air out of the tire.
They want to look like they're doing something without doing anything at all. I mean, that wouldn't have done anything to prevent this latest mass shooting that they're supposedly doing that in response to. This like psycho neo-Nazi was in his 30s.
Yep.
And the problem is not, when can we access these weapons of war? It's the fact that we can access these weapons of war. And it's not about, can the cops get it right before they decide to murder 20 people? It's the fact that they have the ability to do it in general. So like these kinds of technocratic tweaks, red flag laws, I include in this way, and like the ones that are just so on the margins are really not even worth our time. It's about banning the sale and manufacturing of this weaponry in this country.
Do we have that graph, Bradley, from yesterday? Let's pull this up. I mean, let's just like
in Texas.
Let's just come up with some ideas as to why we might have a graph like this. From 2014 to what was this? To 2022?
So less than a 10-year
8 years
period.
Matt, can you look up? This is 8 year. It is.
It's from the.
These are
Washington Post.
incidentally. These are firearm deaths, not shootings, but deaths. And I think this is from like 2021, maybe. Over the course of 7 years, it goes from under 3,000 to 4,600. This is deaths. Was there like a 35% increase in population in Texas over those 7 years? Did we have a 35% increase in violent video games produced over those 7 years?
35% increase in, bad mental health. It's all about mental health.
I mean, this is about changes in their gun laws and all of the money from gun manufacturers that get poured in to right-wing media and groups to so-called normalize gun use.
Crowder.
2015 or 2015, they were going down to like the Piggly Wiggly, and 10 guys would come out with their AR-15s to go in and buy a Slurpee just so that they could just say that, we're just making gun use, making people feel comfortable with guns.
Look at it. Look at it. I want you to look at it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, like, and we in that interview that was done on Fox News yesterday with Greg Abbott, they showed the polling around things like background checks and banning assault weapons and having a 30-day waiting period before people buy those weapons. I'm in favor of all of those, and so is an overwhelming majority of the American people. The problem with like selling this in that way is that there is no, and we had a caller also kind of touch on this as well, there is not right now political consequences for doing nothing on this front. Like there's no equivalent mechanism on the left that the gun lobby and the enthusiasm that it's engendered with the Republican base has on the right. And like, I don't know how we solve that, but we have to create a mechanism to get them to feel the pain on this topic, because it's just not translating electorally.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what the answer is with that either. I mean,
and the part of it is that, like, honestly, Republicans want our public spaces to be unsafe. They are against public good.
Homeschool.
It's all about private property, militias touring the streets. Like, let's make our public schools really bleed them dry. No free school lunches. Pull your schools, your kids out to do homeschooling or go to a charter or a private school. Privatize everything. Our public spaces should not be safe for everybody. That's why they're okay with the guy going into Starbucks with the weapon of war, because it's all about, I have my own personal fiefdom, and that helps on the micro level undercut the administrative state and government largely, because they don't want public good. They only want private empowerment.
All right. I mean, I honestly don't know. Somebody's asking, like, Roni fan, you've been around longer than any of your listeners. I hope that's not exactly true, but what will be the final straw for gun reform, in your opinion? I am of the mind that honestly, what you need to do is, in terms of final straw, it's going to be when the Supreme Court is no longer 6-3 conservative. And when it's 5-4, with the 4 conservatives, essentially, and they revisit the Heller case, then they say this is absurd. Rob from Plus, Minneapolis. If it wouldn't have prevented the latest mass, then why do it? That's Emma and Sam saying this, not the NRA. Well, you should really put into context, because it's quite clear that the reason why the Republican legislature is doing this is not because they're interested in gun reform, but they're interested in something that is going to alleviate the pressure on them to do something. And so this little bit of letting the air out of the tires is if this was just the beginning of them attempting to actually impose some form of meaningful gun reform, then I would be for it. But it's quite clear that this is just a way to essentially pretend like they give a shit. They don't. That's the difference between us and the NRA. That should be fairly obvious. I'm not saying that somebody should vote against it, but I'm also saying that people shouldn't buy the fact that there's actually any type of meaningful interest in gun reform coming out of the Texas state legislature. You have to be an idiot.
I'm saying that Texas law Democrats should say this is not something we're passing without anything actually meaningful behind it, because it's just a fig leaf for the Republicans. Why would you gift that to them?
It's to get them through a news cycle.
That's called playing politics and actually trying to change something, right? As opposed to they just did this with the mental health care thing, right? Didn't Abbott put some millions into mental health care? We have no idea where that money went. It didn't create any socialized system in Texas. So why give them a nonsense reform when we need larger ones?
I think what's going to happen in terms of Texas, the only time you're going to see any action there is if they, This is obvious. You look at that graph and you can see what's going on in Texas. And it's not like they're buying less guns there. It's getting exponential. And the more of these shootings happen, the more people go out and buy more guns. This is just going to keep happening there. And it's going to happen at an increased rate.
It's going to happen all over the country because we live in a society. I mean, we need the only thing that's going to solve this is federalized legislation targeting sale and manufacture of weapons of war. What? That's it.
The only real opportunity, I think, for meaningful legislation on a federal level too will be essentially some type of civil action against gun manufacturers for making a product that is knowingly making a product they know is dangerous. And the fact that they have had liability protection from our government is also indication that everybody knew that there was liability there. So I think it should be a pretty easy a slam dunk in terms of once they repeal that legislation. But who knows? All right. We didn't even get to talk about my concerns in terms of Joe Biden's reelect numbers. Maybe we'll get into that in the fun half. That'll be fun. Maybe we'll do that at the end of the week. We can talk about it on Friday.
Yeah, it's
make it just a really long, depressing week.
I won't be here on Friday, so.
Well, all right. I'll just handle it myself.
That, yeah.
Folks, just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityReport.com. When you do, you not only get the free of commercials, you also get the fun half. And just a reminder to our members, you can go into the podcast and YouTube description, also on the website, and find the special deals from our advertisers today. Hello Tushy and the great IAC laser engraving with the great stuff that you may have missed some of the. You got to go just check it out. IAClaser.com, lasers.com. But check out the links. You get 10% off. Great gift. Maybe a late Mother's Day gift, but also a great Father's Day gift. But also a great family gift. Hello Tushy, more or less the same thing.
Family gift.
My kids get a little bit scared.
Fun for the whole family.
About the Hello Tushy. But don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Emma, ESVN.
Yes. I mean, we spoke about the James Harden, sorry about that, performance against the Celtics. Jokic pushing a flopping Suns owner, which was fun. The labor politics behind the Grizzlies, essentially throwing Dylan Brooks under the bus for a future employer. And then just some NHL talk, youtube.com/ESPN show.
Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning?
Tonight we got Gus Bova talking about Tesla factory conditions. And Javi K will be joining us to talk about his assessment of Biden, and in the post-game talk about how he's consulting with the Marianne Williamson campaign. Whoa. So patreon.com/Left Reckoning to join David and I tonight.
646-257-3920. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
That's some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance.
Ooh.